The most selfish thing that you can choose to do is only take care of your current self. That is one of the most selfish things that a business person can ever achieve. Once you view the larger number as realistic and within your reach, you start to make bets and take the necessary risks and do the math to actually achieve these numbers. Unanswered questions equal stalled progress. All that these bigger numbers typically are large bets that play out on a consistent month-over-month basis. Right across the street from where I live, just the other day, Sergey Brin pulls up on a $450 million yacht. But I'll tell you this, that $450 million yacht sure makes a $5 million yacht feel like it's free.
What is actually that first path that you would take with someone to go from, let's say, 50, 100K a month to $1 million? What's the first thing that you look and identify for?
The main thing that you have to do is you have to go through this process of like,
all right, man, let's kick off. So I think, if someone is listening to this and they're like, Jesus fucking Christ, like Jeremy gets people to like $1 million a month and I'm nowhere near that. What is actually that first path that you would take with someone to go from, let's say, 50, 100K a month to $1 million? What's the first thing that you look and identify for?
Yeah, very important. You start off with the mental frame you have on money. When you're looking at $1 million a month, like it's a lot of money, it's going to be a tough path to ever achieve. Typically, the things that you achieve are the things that you view as small or realistic or, within your reach. So very important to note, usually the small people, like in that range that you're like, dude, somebody at 50K a month's not even a fucking gross millionaire yet, not even making a gross $1 million. It's like they struggle with the idea that $1 million is no fucking money at all, and it's very important to note, it's very easy through data and conditioning to minimize that number and minimize any number for that matter. Make it realistic, make it believable through data, right? The main thing that you have to do is you have to go through this process of like reconditioning the numbers, okay? And when I say it's done through data, just as an example of this, I'll give you some random data. The United States government, they say $40 million a year or less is a small business, okay? Therefore, $1 million a month, that's only $12 million a year. That's still really close to about 1/4 of the number that you're still under the classification of a small business in the eyes of the good old United States government. $1 million a year, like depending on where you live at, you're getting fucked on taxes. You likely have some serious expenses associated with that revenue. You might as well go work a fucking corporate job and get taken care of and coddled at one of those places that feeds you all day and gives you health insurance and benefits, because you're going to net about the same amount you would have made if you would have just gone and worked a job. There's no point in taking the risks of being a serious business person unless you're going to make some serious fucking money. You have to be able to normalize things. I'll give you a great example. I have a $400,000 car, one of 3 other cars that I have. I went into that dealership when I bought that car. It was, without exaggeration, one of the cheapest cars within that specific dealership. The on the floor of that dealer is a place called Prestige Imports here in Miami. They had 8 Paganis, the cheapest one of which was $3 million. You walk in, look to the left, immediately, Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport, Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport, Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport. It's like $3 to $5 million cars, depending on the mileage. They had a specific Lamborghini model as a race car. I still don't even know the name of it. Looked like a Huracan, but I was like, is that a Huracan? And they were like, no, it's not a Huracan. Like almost like I disrespected this specific race vehicle that I saw. And I was like, how much is this car? And it was like a fucking $1.2 million car I'd never even heard of before. The moral of the story is, I was like, you could buy a $400,000 car, walk out of the dealership and feel like you bought a cheap car relative to the conditioning and the environment in which you participated in. It's like, I live down here in good old Miami, Florida. I've lived here 12 years. And over the last 12 years, the city's continued to thrive the entire duration of time. Like it didn't just rapidly evolve during the COVID era. It was like this the entire time. It's like right across the street from where I live, just the other day, Sergey Brin pulls up on a $450 million yacht. Now, I want to be clear when I say this. I don't in any way, shape, or form aspire to own a $450 million yacht. That's not within my playing cards. It's not something that I genuinely want in my life. But I'll tell you this, that $450 million yacht sure makes a $5 million yacht feel like it's free, okay? And it conditions down what you might historically have viewed as a large number to something that is extremely realistic, within your reach, fully something you can grasp. Okay. So if you view, like, it's very important to note, like I I actually, when I started making content and talking about $1 million months, I actually tried to pick something that was smaller than what I genuinely believe I wanted to talk about instead. Because when we work with clients, like our goal in order for us to get what we want out of a deal when we do an agency rev share relationship, we want to get paid $100K a month off a deal. And we do that off of net rev share. So net profit shares are essentially how we operate. That means I have to net somebody off of actions that are trackable back to me $1 million in a month. So in every deal that we do, we actually have to vet for characteristics and be capable of taking that deal to a couple $1 million a month for them to have the potential to net out $1 million a month to pay us our 10%, get our $100K a month that we're looking for. So the moral of the story is like, even me sitting here talking about $1 million months, when I sit there and like break down all these lessons from people who have been there, done that, there's just so much conditioning that goes into it to just minimize it, make it feel extremely realistic and believable for the individual that's approaching these kinds of things. That's one of the number one things that keeps people stuck at these lower levels, because it's very important to note, like once you view the larger number as realistic and within your reach, you start to make bets and take the necessary risks and do the math to actually achieve these numbers. All that these bigger numbers typically are large bets that play out on a consistent month over month basis. That's really all it is. And you're not going to throw your nuts on the table and take a serious risk until you actually get to the point where you view it as something that you deserve, that you're capable of accomplishing, that's small and easy to do. You need to be looking and talking to people that are already just crushing those numbers. Like as an example of this, in my Inner Circle program, we just recently gave a guy a trophy for hitting 5 mil a month. The guy was at $500,000 a month in January of this year. Within 7 months, their company started clearing 5 mil a month. By the way, total side note, it's a 6-foot trophy that's made out of pure silver. No, dude, this one's made out of pure silver. The $1 million a month trophy is like still a very respectable size. I want to say it's like 3 feet. It's a gold trophy that's like very large, but this 5 mil a month trophy is serious. We don't get to break it out that often, but when we do. Anyway, it's like, dude, think about that. How do you go from $500K a month to 5 mil a month? Okay, it's like there's a lot to that.
You set me off there. I think that's a great place to begin. So let's actually walk through my example. So when about 3 years ago, I remember distinctly being like stuck at like 50K a month, literally distinctly, about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. And I was like, I can't do it. Not like consciously, but subconsciously. I was like, I can't do it. And then eventually we broke through it. We got to like 6 figures a month. When I got to 6 figures a month, I didn't even think about it. I'd gotten to like 200K, 300K, 350 within, let's say, about a year afterwards. But I wasn't even thinking about it because I'd kind of broken this mental fucking, again, as you say, just pointless threshold in your head that you put on yourself. So my question is, I made it up. Exactly. You just make it up. You literally make these things up. So my question is, how do we reprogram yourself to start thinking in those, not necessarily bigger numbers, but like almost allowing yourself to make that money? Like what have you done there? Because it sounds like you've done a lot of internal reprogramming to even see this stuff.
Dude, highly believable reasons. It all starts with highly believable reasons. It's like the skeptic who sits here and is like, all these assholes sitting here talking about a couple $100,000 a month being no money. It's like, the moral of the story is like, you can convict yourself of whatever you like, but the highly believable reasons that back up why you actually believe in these things is what matters most. That's what you have to look at. And when you break down the need for more money, not just the want and desire for more money, but the genuine need for more money, it can be backed into from many different perspectives. I'll give you a great one with retirement math. I haven't met a single fucking person that says, I want to retire when I'm 65. 100% of the people, without exaggeration, I talk to tell me they want to retire somewhere in their 40s, or for the conservative ones, somewhere in their 50s. And then I just ask them a basic question. I'm like, wow, you must be stuffing aside some serious cash every month. What are you investing? And you look at their investment plan and they've got fuck all money going into markets on a consistent basis. They got fuck all money going into real estate, zero equities. Like, they don't take it serious because they've never done the math. So anyway, moral of the story is, it's like, you better fucking kick it into high gear if you're serious about having a great life, because a great life costs some serious fucking money. And when you admit that money makes every single decision that you're going to make now and in the future, you're just not going to make a lot of it. You're just going to sit there and live in this ignorant bliss of being able to comfortably afford selfishly the measly little life you've built now. And everybody that you could be financially helping, even your future self that you could be financially helping, is suffering because you are not being a serious individual and kicking it into high gear. So it's all backed by reasons, highly believable reasons. Does that make sense?
Man, this makes perfect fucking sense. And the more that you understand the numbers, the more that you realize the actions you have to take. So, I mean, you went really deep into detail, super detail on the personal reasons. But then if you look at the business actual outcomes you need to do, which was a huge kind of awakening for me in the past year, which is like, how many calls do we need? How many people do we need to be showing up? What's the throughput you need? It's like when you get into those nitty gritty details, like that should scare the shit out of you.
Those just break down the bets. I mean, if you just do closer math like what you just described, this is how many closing calls we need to achieve this larger number. This is how many people we need to close. That just reveals the simpler side of things, which is the execution of this is how many closers I'm going to need. This is how much ad spend I'm going to need to risk with our current cost per calls. It exposes whether you actually know what you're doing or not as well. Because sometimes you look at that kind of math and you ask yourself, do I even know how to generate like 100 calls a day or 50? Do I even know how to run a sales team of that size? Do I even know how to sustain that amount of ad spend in a month and not get fucked on my cost per result? And that's generally where you start to invest into things and like, gather the awareness that you need. But generally from my experience, that's more of the easier side of things of just, that's like the farthest up the chain, close to the action that you can get. That's just the execution business math. But yeah, moral of the story is think about this. Like, you're not going to be convicted on risking a fuckload of money for business reasons. You're going to become a highly convicted money monster solely based on something that selfishly matters to you. Okay. That's what actually matters. That's why I broke down the personal reasons specifically. It's got to be something that actually moves you into action and makes you sacrifice what's necessary to sacrifice to achieve the outcomes that you claim you want. Because if not, again, very simple to understand, you end up one of those people making fuck all money every month, and you convince yourself you're a big dog because you can selfishly afford food at a restaurant without looking at the price for the first time in your fucking life, and you're flying first class to wherever the fuck you think you're not even staying in nice hotel suites. You're staying in like the shitty little shoebox hotels still. And you stay at the Four Seasons, but like you're staying at one of those shitty ones. The moral of the story is this is very important to understand. Like, most people just they have such a small internal worldview because they haven't done the bigger math and they haven't relinquished the idea that all they need to take care of is their current self in this moment, and they're not taking care of their future self. They're not taking care of the other people that rely on them right now today, and as a result of that, like, everybody suffers. Your future self suffers. It's the most selfish thing you could do next to being poor. The most selfish thing that you can choose to do is only take care of your current self. That is one of the most selfish things that a business person can ever achieve.
Dude, this is fucking really detailed. Like, I love that you set it up way more on the personal side so that you can go take it into the business then. So that then you can take in your actual best self. So when you're working with people, specifically in your mastermind, right? Because you have one-to-one access to them. You're obviously going through the setup here in the beginning. But then how does this translate into the business?
Yeah, so from there, it's like we start to expose everything that's wrong. Once we get to the point where you as an individual are officially convicted and like ready to do what it takes to achieve these larger goals, you're in the right frame. Generally, the business stuff is extremely simple to break down. We start to look at bottlenecks and we start to identify with that math that you brought up. Let's just look at the ideal number, right? And if that's $1 million a month or a couple million a month, like, let's break it down. How many closers do we need? How many calls do we need? Is the current funnel, maybe it's a call funnel, maybe it's a webinar, maybe it's a low ticket to high ticket funnel, maybe it's DM ads, maybe it's just organic and no paid, maybe it's just paid and no organic. Where's the current revenue? Where are the current calls? Where are the current leads and revenue coming from? Let's strengthen that. Let's amplify that. Let's hedge against it and bring in another funnel at a certain point in the game. And let's just start the action cycle and starting to amplify. Most people get stuck. And again, a lot of that just comes down to the reasons. They just don't have a reason to sacrifice beyond where they're currently at. They got comfortable, they plateaued, they settled into wherever they're at. But again, once that kicks in and all the personal reasons become like very evident to you and you're selfishly motivated again, everything starts to kick into high gear. The amplification and the scale becomes a game of either solve the obstacle preventing scale and amplification that's right in front of you and clear as day, just attack the fuck out of the contraction. Or in most instances, you're right there ready to scale. I was talking to a guy the other day as an example in the inner circle. I get on a one-on-one call with him. It's my first call with him. He says, we're at like 300K a month. It was him and his mother. And his mother is, simply put, like helping a very specific demographic with a coaching business. And I was like, what's preventing you from making more money right now? And he was like, like, he gave me like a roundabout answer. I could tell it wasn't the real reason. So I don't know. I just disregarded it. I don't even remember what the fuck the guy said because how irrelevant the reason was. And I break down like some of the math of the business. I was like, so your cost per call is like really favorable. Your show rate's fine. Your close rate's fine. Your AOV's fine. You're not having any issues with spending money. There's no like inconsistency problems on cost per result. The closers are consistent, but he only had 3 closers. And I was like, are they maxed out? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, well, are you hiring more closers? And he was like, no. And I was like, why are you not hiring more closers? And then again, he gives me this like roundabout answer. We end up just kind of like doing this circular logic for a good 3 or 4 answers until eventually the guy reveals, he goes, I'm kind of at this fork in the road where I don't know what to do. I mean, I don't really want to continue doing what I'm doing now where I'm helping my mom with this coaching offer. I kind of want to go out and I want to do my own thing. And I'm like, bingo, like you're not going to do a fucking thing until you overcome that specific fork in the road. Unanswered questions equal stalled progress. So you're not going to do you're not going to hire more closers. You're not going to take the next level of necessary sacrifice because this specific dilemma that you're stuck in is obviously going to prevent scale. And so moral of the story is sometimes it's situations like that where there's just like a big unanswered question that must be answered to continue and amplify the game further than where it's at. Other times, it's just a lack of awareness and a lack of know-how. So let's take a similar situation to that, where somebody jumps on a call. They're like, hey, I got this webinar right now. And, I'm getting a decent cost per lead. I'm peppering in organic as well into it. But, I just can't figure out how to scale the webinar. I'm at a 3-to-1 ROAS. And it's like, so you turn $1 into $3 and you're not spending more money to turn it into more money. And they were like, well, no, I think I should be at like a 6-to-1 ROAS. And it's like, well, why can't we do both? Why can't we fix and optimize while we also scale? And sometimes they just need somebody to come in and like kick them into gear like that. And then also help with the specific bottlenecks to open up the ROAS to be able to get to a 6-to-1. Sometimes it's just a lack of awareness. You don't know what you don't know. And you need somebody to come in both from an accountability perspective and from a here's all the things you could do perspective. Other times, I'll give you a great one. We had this guy join in, I think it was a month ago at this point, that this guy's first month occurs. He lives over in Australia. Again, I'm here in Miami. We have plenty of people, by the way. It's actually surprising how many people from like literally across the world, like in Dubai, Australia, like all over Europe, obviously here in the United States, like everybody's a part of this inner circle group that we have. And long story short, this guy in particular, he's in Australia. And so I assume that, you might come to like maybe one of the 4 masterminds you get access to a year when you're a part of that. But, you still get the one-on-one calls, you still get the weekly calls, the group, all the resources and all that. So he specifically joins in and he was like just amazed with the amount of revenue that people were making. Right away, his ceiling lifted substantially greater because he realized he was like, I have a call funnel. I could do a webinar. Why am I not doing a webinar? So he reads through this 72-page SOP. It's called the Mastering Webinars SOP. He reads through this SOP. He books 1 call with me. Okay. Doesn't even talk to me about the webinar stuff. Talk to me about something totally different. Okay. He goes out in that first month. He spends $85K on a webinar. He cracked $800,000 with the webinar in that first 30-day window of just being in the group and being exposed to people making a fuckload more money than him. He didn't view him as smarter than him. He just viewed it like, man, if these other people are taking these bets, why wouldn't I? Like, it seems like a webinar is an extremely obvious play. So again, he spends 85, generate $800,000. Okay. That takes him over the $1 million a month mark right away. It's like in that example, he's a smart guy. He's more than capable of generating that revenue on his own. But in that example, him being exposed to everything, him seeing the amount of revenue that other people are generating, him diminishing the current revenue number that he was at and realizing he was capable of achieving much more and realizing the vehicle in order to do that for him was going to be a webinar, and then just having the fucking courage to throw somebody on the line, try it, and get that big of a result. I mean, that's an extreme result, to be fair, not necessarily common, but moral of the story is that is a great example of another component of this, which is sometimes people just need the courage. They need some certainty, and you can buy certainty. You can buy certainty from having people who have already been there, done that, show you what to do to help mitigate the mistakes that you could otherwise make, show you examples of specific, in this case, webinars that worked extremely well. So you can help yourself replicate those types of outcomes and just make it easier and essentially buy a higher probability for it to work. You know what I mean? And anyway, moral of the story is like, there's all kinds of different circumstances that people find themselves in. Once they get to the point though, where like the mentality's unlocked There's just some very specific circumstance that you'll find yourself in that's your specific like block. And in almost all instances, those blocks are so easy to move. Sometimes it's just like a big question that's unanswered. Sometimes it is a specific contraction or bottleneck that you just need new awareness and know how to solve around. Other times it's the courage that you purchase in order to become more certain and just finally throw your nuts on the table and take that big bet and get that juicy outcome that you're looking for, and I can't stress that enough. Like it's just different every time,
It just happens to get in the game. And man, this is bringing up a lot for me, to be honest with you, because I think me observing just you and just learning from a lot of your content, you're great at amazing, you're amazing at a lot of things, but what you are really an expert in is in ads, right? When I look at your ads methodology, it's so fucking dialed in, and like your approach towards ads, I think is a huge bottleneck of my approach.
How much are you spending in a month right now
on ads, bro? Like sub 10K.
And how much are you turning that money into?
That money specifically, the ads aren't working that well. Like I would say maybe from ads, maybe like 30 to 50K, and then from organic, 100 to 150.
So you're turning 10K into you said 30 to 50K. That's what you said?
Yes, but it's inconsistent, right? It's like, yeah, it's just inconsistent in terms of moving from marketing to sales. Do you get me?
Inconsistent is in your sales cycles long, or you just fail to consistently spend that 10K and get that return month over month? There's been months where it's spotty, or you're just saying it's inconsistent as in that fluctuation between 30 and 50K is self-perceived as the inconsistency?
The results the leads that come in, that book on the calls, that the calls are taken, the inconsistency I have is like show rate, close rate with cold traffic.
When it's inconsistent and in a bad place, what's the ROAS during that window?
Oh, it could be like 1.5 to 2.
Understood. How often does that happen? How often does it bop down that low and then go back up to the 3 to 5 range?
It was better. Now it's worse. But I think we had to make a lot of changes. We moved. We had a fucked up an ad account, created a new ad account, and got rid of ads manager. Had an ads manager. So we're bringing a lot of it in house. Now it's better. It's more under control now. But what I'm just trying to say is like the biggest thing that I've observed here is like that's the bottleneck. That's a bottleneck that I've observed.
Inconsistency will always be a bottleneck because it's in itself. It's uncertainty. We don't generally take big swings when we have uncertain conditions. It's especially when you have organic to compare it against directly. You're going to put yourself in a tough place mentally where you don't actually take a big swing. How you have to look at it is like a gambling budget when you walk into a casino. So I imagine $10,000 in a month is a perceived budget that you could walk into the casino, light it on fire. Doesn't matter. It's not going to financially ruin you. And you could walk into the casino again next month with 10K and bet again. But here's the downside of only betting 10K. 10K is also only probable to make you, like you just described, 30 to 50K. Does 30 to 50K have any real meaning for you after you pay commissions and the other expenses and deduct the 10K in ad spend against it?
Literally fuck all. Like genuinely means literally fuck all to me.
Yeah, and so listen to this, right? Does only spending 10K actually incentivize you in that example to put the necessary attention into that funnel to get it consistent? You don't have a big return that you're probable to generate. And you technically are making far more in something that's more consistent for you and that I imagine you've been doing for longer. So what's the incentive for you to put a concentrated amount of attention and effort into that and get it consistent? How long has that problem been dragging out?
Quite a bit of time, man. So I guess a bit of context, like our age, for the ad specifically, let's say 3 to 5 months.
Yeah, and so listen, what do you think's going to change? Like you think you're just going to wake up and all of a sudden give a fuck? You think you're all of a sudden just going to be like, oh, I'm going to jump in there and like get it consistent? No, what you're going to do is you're going to side piece it. Okay. You're not spending enough to actually give a fuck. Let me give you a direct example that's different. Okay. If I walk into the casino with, let's use the example of your current financial condition with $30,000 to gamble with. Do you think there'd be a difference in how I would choose to gamble spending only 10 versus upping it to 30? You think I'd try harder? You think I'd be more intentional? You think I'd give more of a fuck about turning it into more money? Even though it needs to stay in a range where if it did vaporize, it's not going to financially ruin me. It's not too big of a bet where it's going to become like an invulnerable desperation energy seeping into my bets. I just need to bet enough to be highly intentional about solving the problems rapidly. This is the biggest thing that holds people back most commonly when they're on their path to bigger months. Doesn't matter what the number is. Producing more money month over month requires you to solve the problems that are in front of you fast in order to unlock the next problems that inevitably face you. I'll give you a perfect example of this with a different metaphor. I just recently acquired a commercial building where we're going to do the events from here forward for our masterminds for the inner circle. Now, moral of the story, this specific venue had a whole bunch of problems, a whole bunch, all kinds of random things. And each singular problem was going to be there no matter how fast or slow I solved those problems. You understand? So here's what I did. I literally, the moment I signed the lease, a guy in the parking lot walks in, shakes the owner's hand. He's like, hey, nice to meet you. Shakes my hand. And then he brings in a fleet of 6 dudes. Within minutes, starts grinding down the floor to put a new floor in that I paid for. Okay? That problem was the first problem of many that I would later face. It's like I had to then do all kinds of things. I'll give you another one. Just trying to turn the water on. It's a fucking crackhead that cut the water line to the property to be able to take a shower or some shit. And when we went to have the city turn the water on, the city told us they were like, oh, the meter was spinning. So it looked like there was a leak somewhere. Motherfucker, you turn the fucking meter on. At the meter, there's like a water fountain spewing out. That would have been a better note for them to leave. It took us like 4 hours just to figure out that that was the case. To even find the meter took like 2 hours. I then ordered a big 220-inch screen, 150 of these super comfortable chairs, pool table, custom arcade machines, fuckload of furniture, had to repaint the walls, had to buy all these wall graphics, had to buy signage, paid a muralist to paint the entire outside of the building with this giant megalodon shark, since my agency's name's Megalodon Marketing, had to put a $50,000 sound system into this place. That in itself came with a whole set of inevitable problems and dozens more of just random smaller things. Here's the point I'm trying to make. Every single problem that I just articulated and then some are inevitably on my timeline that I will face. The speed that I accomplish those problems is self-determined. It's either I come across every single one of those problems in a rapid succession, or I self-pace through them at a slower rate and delay the amount of time that in this case, property becomes usable to me. Okay? Why would I, instead of just attacking it all at once, delay them and still deal with every single problem that I'm going to face anyway? There's the exact same set of problems, whether I do it fast or whether I do it slow, that I face. One set of problems, having me solve them quicker, just enables me to be able to make money off the place faster comparatively to dealing with it over a slower duration of time. So again, back to you. When you look at your current circumstances of spending a measly fucking, dude, $10,000 in a month, I bet you spend more than that on dinner. You know, I guarantee you spend more than that on fucking lunch at this point. It's like you probably buy more in shoes and random clothes and bullshit than $10,000. So it's like you're gambling on ad spend with a budget that is making you not give a fuck. And you're also not self-aware that every single problem that's preventing you from being able to spend more money and turn it into more money confidently are all just waiting there for you. Every single problem is just there waiting for you. And your inability to say, I'm going to kick it into high gear here and just start to intentionally, in a highly concentrated way, aggressively overcome these problems that are in front of me right now to get to the other side where you have the next set of problems that you face, but you're also in a better financial position where you're able to risk more money and turn it into more money. You're able to have more consistency. You are choosing to delay the inevitable. You are choosing to lower your probability of ever making it work by waiting. Listen to what also happens at the same time. You sit here over a 3 to 6 month duration of time, and you're also starting to become conclusive about the fact that, you start to make all these narrative conclusions. Paid ads, like it's not really working that well for me, and it's like you start to see all this dumbass shit that's not even true just because you're not willing to put the concentrated effort into it that's necessary to overcome the obstacles, to overcome the problems, and get to the point where it becomes a serious fucking cash engine. So to your point, this is very important to note. It's like, yeah, I'm highly skilled in paid ads, but from having my marketing agency for the last decade now and doing rev share deals a majority of that time now, what I've learned is like anything that holds back the revenue is my responsibility. So like whether it's salespeople problems, whether it's business owner mindset problems, of course, if it's a paid advertising problem, every single individual thing that could impact the ROAS and the overall revenue affects my total paycheck that I can get. So it's like I've over the years had an incentive to develop into handling every single one of these random problems that prevents revenue from occurring because of how I've incentivized myself in my marketing agency to get paid a fuckload of money. So anyway, the moral of the story is your problems are essentially self-imposed problems based on the speed in which you've chose to deal with this and the bet size that you're allocating towards this right now. I would encourage you to do two simple things. Spend more money than what you're spending right now, but keep it below the threshold that makes you desperate if you vaporized it. And two, try as a result. It's a natural incentive that's probable to occur. Try as a result of spending more money to notice the difference. Be self-aware of it, of how much more of a fuck you'll give to actually solve the problems that inhibit the consistency that you look for from it. Does that make sense?
Agreed, man. Yeah, man. I think like, full transparency of fucking doing a lot to get it solved. It's the inconsistency
Clearly
of like the
not.
Results,
This is the other
It's
big
like,
issue. You gaslight yourself. It's like, dog, it's been taking you 3 to 6 months. You're spending easily $10,000.
No. No, take a step back. It's actually, I brought in an ads guy, brought in a very experienced ads person I can tell you about afterwards. And we worked on it and then we got rid of him and taken it in-house. So like we're taking responsibility into our own hands, right? We've had like an issue with them, not necessarily them directly, but with working with them. Got rid of them and then moved in-house.
And Darren, listen to this. This is called narrative. So I believe that in my job, half my job is results, the other half is narrative management. What you're sitting here saying right now is the story that you're living through that justifies the current circumstances. Okay? You need to be intolerable. You need to be fucking tolerable of the fact you've only spent 10K on a month-over-month basis for almost 3 to 5 months now, in your words. And now you're sitting here 3 to 5 months later and you're telling this story like it means a fucking single thing. No, it means nothing. Literally what you're saying out loud right now means nothing. The results are what matter. And the results are currently suffering because you are trying to justify that this story you're telling yourself is real and means something for the fact that it's such a small and insignificant number currently. You're trying to apply a set of reasons, logic, and storyline to what has happened. Instead, what you need to do, don't gaslight yourself. Just look at it for what it is. Just say, Jeremy's totally right. I could easily flip the script on this. You could spend 50K a month and make 500 if you did the right things and you attacked all these problems that inevitably face you in a much more aggressive manner. Gives a fuck that you had an ad guy and now brought it in-house. What the fuck does that have to do with you being able to spend more money and turn it into more money? Again, you could have done that in days, but instead it took you 3 to 5 months. Judge yourself based on the speed in which you solve problems. Judge yourself on the speed in which you grow. Judge yourself on the accomplishment, on the outcome, on the result. Have fun along the way and enjoy the process, but do not gaslight yourself into thinking that storyline that you're telling yourself is something that is valid and true and should inhibit growth from occurring. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man, agreed.
That's how you get stuck for years at a time. That's a huge component of what we see inside of that group that you're referring to, the inner circle there, is we see people all the time. They do just that. They have like some highly believable to them story that they say out loud, and it makes them feel like it's justified to be in their current circumstances as a result of that narrative. And in reality, what the people do who have like rapid ascension, they detach from that storyline and they redefine it and they say, makes total fucking sense. I've got to detach from this narrative and I've just got to look at it for what it is. I'm going too slow. I'm solving problems at a turtle fucking pace, and I'm tolerable of my current circumstances. And as I mentioned, as soon as you overcome that specific obstacle, and that goes back to what we started this whole thing with, that's a mental issue. That's a mental issue that's currently inhibiting you going faster and accomplishing more in a shorter duration of time. It's literally all it is. There's nothing else that matters. You already have the circumstances you just described. So now you have an in-house ad guy. Okay, you have the resources, you have the current positioning to be able to bet more, risk more, but again, you're still not. It's like, think about that, right?
Tell me this: what do you see is the literally the most profitable funnel or the best funnel that you're optimizing for with your ads and your sales team? Like, is it through a webinar? Is it DTA?
Most common ones are call funnels, webinars. For some businesses, it's low ticket to high ticket or DM ads. For others, it's challenge funnels. But the most common two by far are call funnels and webinars.
The reason why I ask is because our like VSL funnels or like the direct to VSL, that was like one of the issues. But then what we've done instead, you mentioned a DM, which I want to bring that up. We've started to do like a DM which are coming into Instagram because Instagram is like super hot for us, and then we're setting them on. But it's actually a volume issue. So just for context, we had like 4,000 leads a month come in, right? Like literally 4,000. It was staying on top of that volume with the ads, and then doubling that down, getting them on calls, getting them set. So that's part of like the operations part of it, the sales ops side of it. That's why I was just curious, because that's what I wanted to ask was like, for those guys to go from 500K a month to 5 million, are they going straight to a VSL?
Yeah, they did do a call funnel. That's all they do. And they hired dozens and dozens and dozens of fucking salespeople. You know, that's a big issue that a lot of people face. They, can max out their current closers, and then they just suck ass at being able to hire new closers, maintain top talent, attract top talent, get them in the trenches and then get their calendars full, make them money within the first 30 days. That's a whole game in itself. But yeah, moral of the story, just closer math of being able to anticipate and have the confidence and certainty you can fill the calendars of the next closers that you bring in. But yeah, it's no matter how you choose to do it, no matter which specific funnel you bias towards, and you should bias towards whatever your strength is. Most people generally have something going organically in most instances, not all the time, but to be fair, in most instances. And they try to roll over to like a completely different thing when they get to paid advertising. And that's a terrible choice. It's like whatever's working for you organically is typically what you should roll over to your paid advertising side of things.
That's what fucked us. I'm not gonna lie, not fucked us, but what I mean is like that's what I had an issue with. The DM in IG is like our stronghold. Like that's like the thing that's always been good, coming down, problem, pain, duration, process, set. Onto calls, like sales ops, triaging, done. Like that's always worked well. It's getting the throughput through that has not always, but like that's part of, you said, the hiring, right? Like when do you hire? You're always hiring, right? You're always putting guys.
You can perpetually hire. That's like best case scenario, because usually it takes a good 3 to sometimes upwards of 6 weeks to be able to hire, train, place a closer onto the calendars. Potentially, if they do poorly, have to go through an extensive retraining process or potentially fire them and start that whole process over again. Hiring one closer at a time is one of the most risky things that you could do. So generally you need to hire a few at a time. And then obviously that requires you to then spend more money for the growth to fill up their calendars as soon as they come in. And that's your biggest risk period of time right there, is when you spend money to fill the calendars of a new closer, they shit the bed. And then all of a sudden you're out whatever amount of money you spent to try to fill their calendars up. But simply put, the marketing and the sales relationship, having essentially this confidence on both sides of the equation. The marketers want confidence that when new salespeople come on, they have a really high probability to still have ROAS and turn that money into more money that they're risking to fill up that person's calendars. And the salespeople, they obviously want to know that they're going to come into a business with full calendars, but the sales management, for them to perpetually hire, they need the confidence that the marketers can fill the calendars of the new closers that they put onto the deal, because you're dealing with people. There's a big difference. One of my buddies, Josh Troy, he always says there's a difference between marketing knobs and people. And obviously there is. I can crank everything on the ad spend side of things and damn near immediately fill somebody's calendars. On the people side of things, obviously personally, you want to have empathy to the fact that you're now financially responsible for this individual and their earning potential by bringing them into the business as a sales rep. So anyway, for the opportunity to perpetually hire, both marketing and sales need the utmost confidence in one another to play that type of game. What most businesses do instead, and this is why they also go pretty slow, they'll hire a new closer and then they'll just wait and they'll see if marketing can fill the calendar. Marketer on your account might suck, not be able to fill the calendar immediately. They try to scale and like cost per call starts to slip, and then everything kind of goes to shit from there. Then eventually the closer's calendar starts to get full, maybe like 2 months later, and like everything's good. But again, like the inconsistencies of the marketer's skill being able to fill the calendars inhibits the setting team and the closing team from hiring more people. So then you end up like scaling a matter of like a handful of times a year in that example. Comparatively, if you do the perpetual hire example, I mean, yeah, you can scale extremely quickly because you always have the additional closer capacity to book into and to be able to scale into. Comparatively, obviously you hit a hard ceiling when you're doing anything that relates to salesperson's capacity, no matter what the funnel is, whether it's call funnel, webinar, DMs, low ticket to high ticket, et cetera. You have capacity issues. You can only book into whatever's available to book into. So in that example, you're going to go a lot slower, which again isn't bad per se, but to get to the point where you perpetually hire, that's the ultimate game. That's the ultimate scale game. That's where it goes the fastest in most instances.
What sort of tech do you have that manages this, right? Because if you look at like someone like Ryan, like the way Ryan and they scaled, like they just did a bunch of fucking issues. Like everything was like put together and like fell apart and they went up and they went down and so on. How do you manage this out? Like, so let's say managing all the sales data, managing everything, like how do you integrate this if your team is scaling super fast?
Yeah, usually you just have some custom reports and custom dashboards. It's relatively easy, especially in the world of all these fucking softwares that exist nowadays. So a few things. Number one, typically just build like a Google Looker Studio dashboard, and you get some visuals for all the stats, like every stat that you can possibly track and measure, but have them we call them tier 1 through 3 stats. You want to have like tier 1 stats like ROAS, show rates, close rates, AOVs, like the stats that are made up of a bunch of smaller stats, but they have a lot of leverage by tracking those specific stats. You want to have them collectively and you want to have them individually reported. So individually on each closer or individually on each setter, and then collectively as the team in this example. And same thing on the marketing side of things. You want to have it collectively from all channels, and then you want to have it individualized as well. Usually the custom dashboards have a little more accuracy relative to how they're set up. You'll typically, like as an example, Hyros is a good tool to refer in this example of a tool that can track a lot of the ad side statistics and like the sales conversion data, but it doesn't track like all the other sales stats that you need. So you still end up in this position where you need a custom dashboard of some kind. And then, yeah, paying somebody that's very competent to come and build these dashboards out. Like they're not like impossible or tough to build out. It's just where you're pulling the data from. So from that perspective, you then need a sales team that's going to be compliant, because a lot of the sales team statistics are self-reported. Things like show rates, close rates, these things can be measured and tracked if a CRM is properly updated, but you have to have compliance with whatever main software and tool the dashboards are pulling the data from. Obviously, otherwise the data can become inaccurate. So yeah,
that's what happens, all right. It always ends up being bullshit, right?
It's going to be bullshit if you got a bunch of people that aren't actually compliant with updating everything that they need to. But yeah, I mean, listen, moral of the story. This is again like a really important thing to understand. Compliance is a non-negotiable in all the sales teams that we work with. Like they do not tolerate somebody coming into the business and not updating the statistics, not updating the dashboard, not updating the CRMs. Like it's a non-negotiable. It's something that you must do. It's a mandatory task within the business. It's not like an optional thing. Don't do that, you're going to get fired. That makes sense? And if you think about that as an example, this is very important to understand too. It's like, who the fuck has willingness to fire a good closer because they won't update the CRM, right? It's like, who's got the nuts to go and do that? Well, you have to operate from a place of abundance that you can go out there and attract more top talent closers and swap out that individual if necessary. I've had so many instances over the years where people just operate out of a perspective of scarcity, and that limits their growth and their potential more so than almost anything else. You have to operate with this perspective of like true detachment, and you have to understand what the non-negotiables are and ensure that everybody's following through on those things. You fail to do that, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, man. Dude, it's funny you say that actually, because I just had a call with a client earlier and I said like I actually got rid of a closer who was very talented, but he was doing things his way. Nice guy, but doing things his way. So I'll give an example. Call recordings weren't updated. Call transcripts weren't added. Call feedback. Like bear in mind, he was in the US, we were in Asia. So I'd wake up and I would just get no report, like nothing, no insights into calls. And this had slipped. The guy's fucking good, no doubt about it. But it was like it's death by 1,000 cuts.
There's a difference between good and great, It's like those kind of people can get fucked, because they create more problems than the revenue that they produce, because then you don't get the leverage that's necessary to be able to improve things further and have accurate data. Like those trends become very critical as you scale to be able to report. Even the call transcripts, as you just described, like when a closer or a setter is not actually recording what they do nowadays, you don't get the opportunity to leverage AI to have sales management AI analysis, where you get the opportunity to throw every single transcript week over week, month over month into an LLM of your preference that is going to do that analysis when prompted properly and reveal things that a human sales manager would rarely ever go fucking do themselves. And well, the story is like, it's, again, like the individual there fucking everybody by not doing the things and being compliant does nothing beneficial for the business for whatever little revenue that fucking rep's going to chip in, you know? And you don't ever want a singular rep to have leverage, too much leverage over the business. Otherwise that becomes problematic and then you got to be tolerable of it. And then all of a sudden every other rep says, oh, well, this guy over here is not doing it. I'm not going to do it either. And then the whole thing goes to shit as a result of that, you know, not good.
Dude, I think a huge thing that stood out to me with your work too is the culture, right? Like I fucking love your energy, man. Like I love just the energy you bring, and I feed off it too. And I feel like that's a big thing that's happened with your team and your clients too. Like, how do you maintain that culture? Because sales team, okay, fair enough, everyone is commission based, right? So they all eat what they kill. But how do you pull that energy throughout the organization? So motivating people that are maybe non-financial motivated.
Dude, one of my old high performance coaches that I had, he had me read this book one time. I don't even remember what the fucking book was, but here's the moral of the story. He said, beliefs cause wars. And I remember hearing that and I was like, yeah, you know, that is actually very true. That is why we have wars. You know, that is why like there's I mean, everybody's behavior is self-defined by beliefs. Conflict is typically self-defined by just imposing beliefs. And I can't stress it enough. Beliefs are the most important thing. They drive all our behavior. And so being self-aware of that, all culture is just a shared set of beliefs. And what most organizations lack, they lack a charismatic leader that's just constantly projecting the beliefs that the organization and the people within it need to share collectively. It's like all you're trying to do is share a worldview. And when you have a bunch of people that have their own individual brains, culture is just having a collective brain between all individuals that people can pull from. And there's obviously no fucking hypothetical brain in this example that actually exists. How that works is having, again, the charismatic leader just constantly share and project how people need to be thinking, what the perception needs to be of different circumstances, managing the narrative of the organization and what people are viewing different circumstances as, fitting it into that grand narrative, and having the grand narrative aligned to a specific belief system that collectively benefits everybody. When you look at how beliefs drive behavior, again, the right set of beliefs can cause you to make a fuckload more money. The wrong set of beliefs can inhibit your growth dramatically. And that's true of everybody within your organization. We've had incidents. I'll give you a perfect example. We had this client, it was 2021 or 2022. They scaled up to $1 million a month. And one closer in particular was doing like $700K of the mill a month. Okay. And this particular closer was getting paid upwards of like, on some months when it cracked a little more than $1 million a month, was getting paid at the peak like $200-something thousand a month as a closer. And this particular guy, I kept telling the client, I was like, dude, this is a regular guy. Like, this is a guy who lives in like bumfuck nowhere, has a family. Like, you need to start conditioning this guy upwards to have him understand the importance of how much more money he needs, you know, because I bet he's just squirreling it away doing fuck all with it. And then, no exaggeration, I mean, like 3 months later of this guy making a good couple $100,000 a month, his productivity just drops. His availability on the calendar, like, all of a sudden slims out to next to nothing. And all we keep hearing from this guy is like, essentially all his family man rhetoric of like, oh, you know, I'm just going to spend more time with my kids now. Like, I'm not going to close. I'm not going to do this or that. And the beliefs obviously immediately drove the revenue of the business into the fucking ground. In addition to that, this particular client, they didn't have like a well-defined sales training regimen and like top talent attracting system. We had to step in and help them with getting new closers, which ultimately saved the business and helped it thrive again and like get back to the $1 million months. But I can't stress enough, dude, this one closer, this guy obviously gets fired because of his lack of fucking productivity after a certain point. But this guy thought he was the shit. Like, this guy thought he was the fucking cream of the crop. And I remember it took a good, I think it was like 8 months. It was pretty close to a year, right? But right around the 8-month mark of after this guy got fired, he comes back and he acted like he just had a role within the business waiting for him when he inevitably wanted to come back. He communicates with the business owner and was like, hey, you know, I'm ready to come back. Like, I had this fucking emergency in my backyard where I don't know what it was, but it was like a $200,000 repair that was necessary for him to dish out in his bag. And this guy hadn't worked at all for like 8 months. So he was just sitting there, just squirreling away money and then just spending it, letting it slowly leak out, you know? And then a big expense comes along that just pretty much wipes him out or gets him close to this, I wouldn't say wipes him out to zero, but like it gets him in a mode where he's like, all right, I need to work again. I need to go back out there and make money. And dude, this guy had the fucking audacity when he comes back to say, oh, I'm only going to close for like 3 hours a day. I'm only going to make like 3 hours available. And we were like, get fucked. Like, no, you're not coming back. And we don't want anything like that in this business from a belief perspective. We want nothing like that to be in this fucking shared closer mindset. Like, we don't want that impeding in our culture. It's intolerable. Again, it's intolerable. We don't need you to fucking tell your kids to get fucked and never spend time. Like, no, dude, we're not like that. Like, we all make money to be able to do the things that we selfishly give a fuck about. We'd love for you to spend time with your family. We'd love for you to have even more kids. We'd love for you to go out there and like go to every game they ever have or whatever the fuck you want to do with your kids. It's the whole point of working, like we totally understand that. But to say you only got to fucking do 3 hours a day, no, like we're not, no, absolutely not. We're not going to tolerate that out of the closing team. So anyway, back to my point. When this guy inevitably doesn't get brought back onto the team, another couple months goes by. It's like at this point, we're over a year, probably like a year and maybe 1 to 2 months into the next year now. And, again, the guy's just squirreling away cash, and it keeps running dry, keeps like a slow leak. And then the second time he attempts to come back, in this case, he has more willingness to take more hours. But at this point, it's like, dude, the closing team is so fucking dialed in. You can tell that the organization and the people, a part of the organization and this guy, there was going to be like oil and water. It just wasn't going to mix together. And so therefore it wouldn't make sense to bring that individual within the organization. The beliefs are what carry momentum. The beliefs are what define what people should do and when. The beliefs are just simply put how everybody is going to behave. And when you allow people into the organization to have essentially contradicting beliefs to what you've defined and collectively believed in as an organization, that's a huge liability, and it inhibits the potential of the organization. Beliefs inhibit our behaviors. Again, when you look at the very first thing we spoke about when it comes to mindset, the simple lesson there is what we think defines what we're probable to do. What kind of story we're living in defines what we're probable to do. It defines our potential, and therefore every individual in the organization becomes an asset or a liability to the potential and the momentum of the organization collectively. And when you have those serious, strong, high conviction reasons, whether they're selfish or empathetical or both, that you need that additional revenue, you would never fucking let somebody who has contradicting beliefs to the organization and the worldview that you require people to think with when they're working with you to achieve these large outcomes. You just don't take those risks. And you also, again, as the charismatic leader, you're constantly looking for that. And you're trying to find people and attract people and like shape their worldview into things that are going to benefit them and benefit the organization and create a win-win symbiotic relationship. We're not trying to indoctrinate people into a cult. It's all going to go kill ourselves one day. It's like we're not doing any crazy shit. We're just trying to get richer and help other people along the way. You understand what I'm saying?
Dude, it's huge, right? It's like that energy permeates across the entire organization, and it's not even front end as well as back end. It's a rotten apple. And same with a client, dude. Even with your inner circle, right? One rotten apple can actually fuck up
3 people in the most recent 30 days. We had a big rise in quantity of people that joined in last month. I want to say it was like 20 or like 25 people joined in. We had one guy in particular that I just didn't like the niche that he was in. I felt like it was a niche that we just didn't want to have association with as a group. It was a niche that had a really high failure rate, and it was something that I just didn't want to have out there saying they're a part of the group. We don't want those types of people a part of it. We want like highly ethical and integrous people a part of it. We had another guy. He was very low on his consumption within the first 30 days. Like he wasn't going out of his way and like consuming anything. He wasn't actually implementing everything. He's actually very lackadaisical. He had a bias. He was like, I want to get transcripts of every single course recording that exists and I can throw it into my own custom GPT. And we were like, dude, that makes no sense. Like we already have that. We have Jeremy AI and it's trained literally every single day on every single thing I document within that day. It's trained on it the following morning. Like, no, you don't need that. We already have it. And anyway, we thought in that case, why we kicked that guy out, he was just trying to fuck us. We thought that, okay, this guy's just trying to take all our material and just make a fucking AI Jeremy. So like, he's not the right fit. And then we had another guy join in. Won't say the name of this company because I still got a lot of respect for this company, but big company, like on the rise right now. You'd absolutely know who I'm talking about if I said the name of them. They had one of their employees join in on behalf of the company into the group. And initially it was honestly a very, very like well-intended reason for the guy to join in. But then they started using the group as a lead list. And so again, we kicked that person out too. We don't need anybody like that. And the cool part about the group is it's a secondary income for me. So like, I don't give a fuck at all about the quantity of revenue that individuals by themselves pay. Like collectively, it's worth doing relative to what everybody pays to be a part of the group. But like when we have the wrong people a part of it, it jeopardizes everything. We kick out the wrong people all the fucking time. It's really fun. And thankfully it doesn't happen more than like a literal handful of times over the course of a year because our vetting process is super strict. But yeah, it's super fun. Dude, we don't tolerate anybody that's the wrong type of person in there. And it creates so good what it creates like such a good, genuine place to just talk about money, openly share everything about getting richer, what's working, what's not working. You show up to masterminds or you're just active in the group chat. Like, you're just around a bunch of people that have that shared belief system, and you can have like the utmost confidence and trust in communicating these, like rather vulnerable things that could otherwise be very uncomfortable to talk about anywhere else. And essentially you're talking with random people at first that eventually become close friends and, people that you like genuinely like and appreciate and value the perspective of. And it's so cool. Dude, I protect it at all costs. I give such a fuck about that specific group thriving and maintaining it and having that, to your point, like that culture effect of it. It's so good.
Yeah, man. But they're also your tribe, right? And they're your friends. Like at the end of the day, like my clients are literally my mates. Like I'm running my mastermind, dude, in 3 weeks. It's my third mastermind this year. This year. I just fucking love doing it. And like, yeah, is it a headache organizing it? I'm like, yeah, but it's sick. I love it. And people fly. You'll be surprised, man. People fly from all around the world to it. Similar to you, right? Because I'm pretty close to Australia. So it's like, yeah, they'll just get up, they'll fucking fly, they'll just go for it,
Now, they're so fun. I think it's so funny. I think that if back when I was a regular person, like well before I ever took risks to get into business, I think it would be so funny to just say out loud that like you pay to be friends with great people
in a room.
It sounds ridiculous to say out loud, but like, as you get richer and richer, it's actually the best barrier to entry that you have. It's like you're kind of placeboed into the idea that like all these rich people hang out at country clubs and like random places that you're going to pay to participate in one day. But in reality, from what I've experienced in my reality anyway, the actual rich people that are similar to me, they participate in things like this, like these mastermind groups. And these are where some of my greatest friends have come from. Like these are the play. And as you get deeper and deeper into business, you typically get busier and you have to have like some type of aligned reason to be able to spend time with people freely, even your friends. You can still have time, of course, where you get to spend time and just hang out and do fuck all that relates to business. But the moral of the story is, what a great incentive to be able to meet with people that are high quality, vetted, making certain amounts that by default also have a bias to like share and provide value with one another. And you're both there for like a similar outcome and a similar intention, just get a fuckload richer than you are right now. That to me has been where I've developed some of my greatest relationships over the last decade, whether it's my own mastermind or plenty of other people's masterminds. It's it's awesome. I love it. Yeah, the mastermind effect is sweet.
The first time I went to mastermind as well, I was like, why the fuck am I doing this? And then I paid for it, and I was one of the best experiences ever. My first mastermind. It's like your first time going out fucking drinking, getting pissed, right? And I don't know, that's what started the wave for me, dude. And I've literally organized one a quarter. Bear in mind. And it's cool. It's chill. It just put dude in a massive fucking villa and it's a great time. But dude, I want to say big thank you for this. You're an absolute legend. I feel like we should do a second podcast in person. I think really detailed on the delivery side, really detailed on some other weird fucking autistic shit that you love talking about. But hopefully I might get back to America in Q4. Hopefully that's well, maybe, because I am due like a bunch of podcasts and I think to do them in person. But dude, you're a legend. And yeah, and I want to say thank you for the kind feedback too. I think you gave me the kick up the ass that I needed. Of course. So thank you for that.
Happy to help. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. I hope your audience gets a lot of value from this and appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to part 2.